Welcome, I am Sharif Iman.
And I am Tiana Cage.
And you are on Love Speak Revolution. You are tuning into. We're so glad to see you and hope that everybody is doing well. We had some crazy ice storms, and I know it hit Nashville and some other places, so I don't know what it's like where you are, but hopefully you are safe and you have your power and you're doing awesome.
Are you going to play us a song?
I am.
Okay, so we're going to get started with some music, and then we are going to have some good conversation, so stick around. A really good song. What are you playing?
I'm playing a song that I wrote called Forever. So, here it goes. When I'm weary and broken and lost at best, in the warmth of your embrace, I always find rest. When my heart is sick and I can feel it in my bones, it's your mercy that reminds me I'm never alone. 'Cause baby, when you hold me, your arms is where I'm free. And everything's gone so wrong. It's your love that keeps me strong. When my world comes crashing down, it's your grace that pulls me out, brings me back to life. Oh, when you hold me, baby, just hold me forever. When all else has failed me and hope is deferred, I can find healing in the balm of your words. And when I'm all out of fight and my demons are closing in, you're my strong tower that I find safety in. Baby, when you hold me, and your arms where I'm free. And everything's gone so wrong. It's your love that keeps me strong. When my world comes crashing down, it's your grace that pulls me out and brings me back to life. Oh, when you hold me, baby, just hold me forever. Forever. Oh, yeah. 'Cause baby, when you hold me, and your arms is where I'm free, and everything's gone so wrong. It's your love that keeps me strong. My world comes crashing down. It's your grace that pulls me out and brings me back to life. Oh, when you hold me, baby, just hold me forever. Baby, when you hold me, just hold me forever. All right.
Our topic for tonight, and we want to hear your thoughts, so definitely join in.
Yes.
Our topic for tonight is friendship. So we just came through like Valentine's Day. As single people, you know, it's probably not the easiest day of the year. But we're thinking that, you know, there's all kinds of stuff. It's the love month. But like people are talking about love like left and right, left and right, left and right. A lot of times, like when we think about love, we automatically go to like romantic love, and which is cool. But we wanted to talk about friendship, and because we think like the foundation of any kind of like meaningful relationship really starts in friendship, whether it's something that only ever stays as friendship, or whether it does become like something more than that, dating, marriage, or even when we're thinking about like our families, thinking about what it really looks like to be good friends to the people around us. So that's what we're planning to talk about tonight.
Yes. You know, it's a lot of the times romance and love, when we see it as the world sees it, sometimes it's just these movies, you know.
Yeah.
And that's all well and good, but we were just talking and we felt like friendship, you know, because I think a lot of people get together, years pass, and they're like, I don't really like you.
Yeah. They never really did.
Yeah, there was no friendship there. Like, you know, and I know there was like the heat of passion and the attraction, but that's what I think like the equal yoking is. You know, it's like, can you chill? Can you do you have things in common? Can you talk? Can you what are your morals, or what are your ethics? You know, like how do you raise kids, or how? I mean, there's so many important things that are just like so important, and I think that kind of thing starts at friendship.
Yes. So I would be curious to know your thoughts. Like,
yes.
For those of you who are married, whatever your relationship status happens to be at the moment, do you agree that friendship is like an essential piece of any kind of dating or like marriage relationship?
Yeah. Yeah.
I was talking about like I am a hopeless romantic in recovery is how I like to call myself, because I think like I grew up with all these ideas of like what it looked like, you know, to have this fairy tale or a Hallmark style relationship, and that it's just not reality. And I'm realizing more and more that like like friendship is so important, and I think even like for me, like with my girlfriends, like learning through them like how to love, like how to love well. There's so many things that I realize like this relationship that I have with my best friend, who's female, is going to prepare me, hopefully, to be a better spouse, or to be a better girlfriend, or to be a better whatever. And so I just think that like there's so much lost in really focusing on the romance. No, I like romance, but you know what I mean.
They check in with each other. And that is so amazing. They check in with each other just to kind of, hey, where's the friendship at? Where are we locking in? I think that's what you mean. Like, and that is so amazing. Wow, that's so great.
Yeah. So I think for us, at least for me, I am curious. I am on here selfishly. I want to know all of your tips for how do you actually build that friendship when you're in this romantic, because I think like feelings start to get in the way, sometimes physical aspects as well. And so like it's just so easy to like lose focus. And so I'm wondering like what are some ways that you all cultivate that friendship, and like how do you then like approach your relationships starting with that aspect of friendship?
Yeah, that is so great. Yeah. How do you keep that relationship fresh? How do you keep the friendship fresh?
From two single people. We are here to mine your ideas. We have our opinions, but you know, it's like when people who don't have kids are trying to give people who have kids advice.
Right. I always say, I know that I don't have, you know, I used to be an au pair in my day. Yes. But I know that that's totally different from having your own kids and being married. And, you know, I'm saying all these situations and I'm just like, wait, like, I don't know because I can't, you know. But I think I have an idea of, you know, I have been in relationships that have been a long time. And it's just keeping that friendship. And I think Edric says, you always remember to stay in the same moment you were the first day you met. Huh. Yeah, that's really cool. That's really, really good. I think like for me, there's just a joy in being selfless for the other person. And so it's just like every day that I wake up, it's like new. And I think it's a mindset of where you're at. I believe if your mindset, it needs to be on self, right? Because like self-care, self-love, all that. But I think like when you're in a relationship, your heart and love really need to be towards your, how can I love today? What can I do for you today?
Yeah.
What do you need? Paying attention to what you need, paying attention to your likes, paying attention to who you are. I think a big thing is in relationships is what's the number thing?
The Enneagram?
Yeah.
Oh, no. Yeah.
Yeah,
What's your type?
I think I'm like a 4.
He's a 4.
Or
I know some
no,
people,
or a 2. I don't know.
You're a 4. He is a 4. He's a 4 people. If you don't know the Enneagram, some people think it's like of the devil or whatever. I feel like for me it's been a really useful tool. So you're talking about the Enneagram. So you think
I think a lot of people, yes, because
I'm a 2.
I think it's important, or the 5 love languages. I think it's really important to know how your spouse or your partner or the person that you're dating or you're with, you need to know how they function, because I've been in situations where I'm like a romantic, like bathwater poems, like, you know, I listen to you and all of a sudden you're like watching TV and you say, oh, I like that. And then all of a sudden, like 2 weeks, there's like a gift, and I just love all that. I've been in some things where the person's, that's not their love language. Gifts and that kind of thing is not their love language. Like they need to hear, I'm more of an action person, and I'm not like, sometimes I don't, I know I'm a singer-songwriter, but words in that aspect, I like to show action, just because in my life, words have just been told to me. So I'm like action, but I think it's very important that you understand how your spouse is and what their love language is and what their number is, because when you understand that, then you understand what makes them happy. I think a lot of times, a lot of relationships are so hard because just because you have passion for somebody doesn't mean that you understand them.
No. This is very true. And then you're gonna get an amen. So I think like definitely. So what I hear you saying is that like in order to really just be friends, you have to learn your person.
Yeah.
Right? Like understand them. And so when you're doing something special for them each day, like Edric was saying, like it's kind of tailored to them, and what makes them feel special.
Yeah.
Like I don't buy my mom like baseball cards and then get mad because she's like, what the heck is this, right? Because my mom doesn't watch baseball. You know?
Right.
So like really kind of getting to know what makes your person feel loved. But I think that's in any relationship, like any friendship. Like I know my best friend is really good at that. My love language is like words of affirmation. So when I told her that, like I started getting all these text messages, but randomly. But like meant for the moment, right? And I'm just like on cloud 9 because it feels, so for me that feels loving, where someone else might be like, buy me something, like why you keep sending me these text messages, right? So I think that's a valid point. Like I definitely think that's a valid point.
Yeah, and I think that's just kind of, and it's just growth, and you I've learned that through a lot of therapy and God. That just when I'm in a relationship, I really am aware of the person that I'm with. I pay attention, and I ask, I communicate. Hey, what do you like? You don't like? What do you do you know? I love to give gifts. I love that. I love to do things like that. And there's just some people that's not, like you were saying. That's just like, if your words of affirmation and I'm getting you gifts. That's not like the biggest gift for you is like me saying I really appreciate, you know what I'm saying? So understanding
the rose petals can have messages on them. That works for me. Or like the soap bars has
did you all hear where she took that? She basically said, for y'all dudes out there, that she wants you to write on her rose petals. Yes.
So you can combine the two, get creative.
That's great. That's great. Yeah. But friendship is the key, and we find out how challenging it is to just have friends. Period.
And I think we should address, because even with us, like we're friends, and I feel like being a friend with someone of the opposite gender is very different than like being a friend with some, like when I'm friends
Absolutely.
with women, it is not the same
How
as
so?
being
How
a
so?
friend
How so?
with a man.
How so? Let's dig into that.
And
That's
so
good.
I
That's
think
good.
that
How so?
I don't understand men.
But
I
how-
don't know how.
Let's
to
dig into that
quantify
though.
this.
Let's dig into that. What do you feel? That's
I
really
know.
great though. That's great. That's great. What do you feel is the difference? Well, how do you explain some, like, can you give us some?
Some of the things that just are like common sense to me apparently are not. I think we are just social. You're asking me to explain it. I don't know how. Like, I feel like we socialize sometimes in different ways, so that like sometimes when I talk to women, like I don't even have to finish my sentence. Like they have an idea of kind of where I'm headed and where I'm going. Where like with men, I feel like at least the men I am friends with, I have to be a lot more explicit and like very direct and like trying to explain what I mean. And at least for me, like my women friends, I don't have to be doing all that.
Do you
like,
feel like you have to do that with me?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, are you serious?
Do you not feel that?
No.
But only in certain ways. In certain ways. Now there are other ways where I feel like you're more empathetic than I am. Like so, in some ways you can understand like what I feel before I even know how to name it. But in other things, I feel like I have to say, this is what I expect. This is what I would like. Whereas I feel like other people, like other women, because we're just used to, this is very generalized. Y'all can chime in and tell me if you agree or not. But I feel like sometimes with women, like many women are trained to just kind of see needs or kind of anticipate what might be needed next in the relationship. Like, because you learn that I learned that as a kid, like babysitting, but you're an au pair, so I don't know. Just for me, I'm like anticipating the other person's needs. And sometimes I'm like, can you not do the same? I'm saying in general, not just you. Like, why I feel like men don't always do that back, because I don't know that men have been trained to do that.
Oh, I totally agree. I totally agree. And I wasn't asking you because I felt like it was crazy. I was really asking because I agree with you. I think that being in this society of the way that we're raised as men, I was having this conversation on an interview day with Dave Hawkins, and I have this song called "Beautiful," and he asked me like, what do you think men are gonna think? Like, because men can listen to this, and I was like, men should be able to listen to the song and know that they're beautiful. I mean, what's wrong with saying that we are beautiful, because beautiful has nothing to do with femininity or masculinity. It has everything to do with it. It is. I think God looks down on us and says that we are beautiful. As a creation, we are beautiful. So I totally agree with you in terms of the mindset that we've been trained in, and I think it's just like the big. I think I won't go down that road. This comment that I was going to say, but. I think that like that's why sometimes it's like it is easier. Like I could say the same thing about men. You get around men and then they just understand because we're men, and so they're just the way that we're built biologically. We just get it and we understand. Yeah. Now let me tell you, there are a lot of men out there I just do not understand, and I'm just like, what is wrong with you? And I know you may see that about women, but I do agree with you. There's just two different dynamics, and I think God needed some amusement. So
well, I'm sure there's definitely been lots of opportunities for laughter.
Yeah.
But I think like the way it comes across in friendship, because like it sounds like some of the women can relate to what I was saying, is like if we're then going to be friends in the basis of any kind of like dating relationship or marriage or whatever, it's like having to figure out what these expectations are that like I just naturally think like this is what you do in a friendship based off of what I do with other women. Like, why aren't you doing it? Like how come you can't understand what I need before I'm voicing it? And it's not, I guess, because sometimes that can feel like disrespect or like you don't, like the person doesn't care.
But that's the cool thing about relationship though, because then it's like you grow, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You don't get the whole basket. But that
It's also
doesn't work.
frustrating.
Yeah, but that doesn't work if the person's not growing. If the person stays the same and never grows in the fact that, hey, like, how do you tick? I want to know how you tick, and then learns, and then you keep having these moments maybe on different levels. That's growth, and that's different, and that's great, and that's relationship, and that's amazing. But I guess, I don't know, maybe do you feel like...
Because I feel like I'm always learning from our relationship where I'm just like...
Me too.
Serious. Like... and a lot of it has to come down to like how we communicate, I think.
Yeah.
Where there are just, I think, vulnerabilities that just come out in friendship in general, but it just feels different, I think, when it's with the, for me, with the man versus like with the woman. I
think you have to be able to be vulnerable and speak your mind, and that has to be received.
Yeah.
I think that's the type of friendship that we have is that you can come to me with like, no matter if it's a hard conversation or you need to talk or you need to speak, that you can have that space, and that you're not just a wall, like I'm not a wall that you're just talking to. I actually crawl into what you're talking to. I listen, I have empathy, and that is very important in any kind of relationship,
In any friendship.
And in any friendship,
I think I had shared a few weeks ago when we were just starting to talk about like love in general. Like I was thinking about like people in the Bible and like what does the Bible have to say about love? And I was thinking about like this story, and I shared about like Jonathan and David, which are like two characters in the Old Testament. And Jonathan's father was the king. Saul. And then David was like about to like take over. So David was not exactly Saul's favorite person because they kind of both, I think, knew what was coming. But Saul didn't want to lose his power. So it was just kind of an interesting dynamic. Like here you have the king's son who is like best friends with his father's enemy, essentially. In this like relationship that develops where regardless, like Jonathan, who is the king's son, like sees in David, the king's enemy, all the gifting that is there, and the fact that like that is his throne, like that is what he was made for. And I don't know, there's something about that relationship that just really interests me when I think about friendship and like I guess my life has been very unorthodox and very much an adventure. And I think sometimes, like, I feel like it's a blessing, like God can place these random people in our lives. People that we may not have a lot in common with, or not feel like we have a lot in common with, or people even that sometimes, like, it seems like we shouldn't be able to get along, or society would tell us, like, we're not supposed to be together. Whether it's a friendship or, like, a dating relationship, whatever. But I think that there's something just intriguing to me about that idea that like Jonathan was able to see David like the fullness of who he was, right? And it didn't matter, like he was committed to David like as a friend, and they were like ride or die. And just something about that relationship that always intrigues me when I think about like how do I want to be a friend to someone. I want to be able to like love people in such a way that they know that they are seen, and I want to be able to like see underneath like what's on the surface, so that I can really like encourage them into whatever is next. You know what I mean? Like I feel like friendship is so much like you were talking about growth, and I think that takes a lot of like just openness and willing to sometimes go against the grain. And I see that even in like marriages sometimes, where the ability to block out, to know which advice and to like know what to listen to and who not to listen to in order to kind of like preserve and honor your relationship. Yeah. So I don't know if anyone can relate to any of that, if any of that stuck out or like, but
most definitely. I mean, I think that was really great, but I think that the one thing that we forget is how important that relationship was to David, because David was rejected.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you see where he was literally treated. His brothers mocked him, you know, and when they were doing the lineup,
Yeah.
you know, the prophet, God had to speak to the prophet and say, "There's one more," and he was like, "Is there one more?" I mean, Jesse didn't even come out. It's like, "Oh, I got one more." He was like, "Is there one more?" Oh, David, like, you
Yeah.
want to see? He's a run. So we see that's his life where he came from. So he's not used to having that type of relationship. You know, he's
Right.
used to what Saul did. That's what he was used to. Somebody coming in, you know, being nice and then totally rejecting him and wanting to, like, you know. So that relationship, he was seen and loved, and when we see about the story, we see that they had such a closeness, because I think that they saw each other, and you know, and I think that's what just really blew me away. And that's what kind of, you're right. We want to be able to see each other. You don't want to be one sided and leech. I don't know. Has anybody have you ever been in a friendship where it was just one sided and you were with like a taker and all they did was take, and never gave? Have you all ever been in a situation like that? Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
I have.
Yes, I have. It's terrible, and I don't play that anymore. But I used to, you know, be that. And if you are in that, we pray for you to be released of that, because it needs to be flowing both ways. It needs to be you know.
But I think that's why, like, that's another reason why, like, another example of why I think we're right, where, like, friendship really has to be at the core of any kind of deeper, like, marriage or dating. And because if that, I think that's the whole purpose even of, like, marriage and like, those, and dating, like,
Yeah.
those relationships should be ones that are helping you grow more fully, like, uniquely into how you've been created. Like,
Yeah.
your person should have such an influence on you that they're like creating spaces for you to, like, just be fully you, and in that, like, be more alive.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, like Missa was saying, oh, I see several people who can relate to the idea of moochers. You know, like leeches.
Yeah. Everybody.
It is demoralizing. It's very demoralizing because I think, like, part of it is like, why would you treat me in such a way when I'm being so wonderful to you?
Yeah.
You know, it can be very demoralizing, especially, like, they call it, like, gaslighting, when, like, the other person is making it seem as though nothing is wrong.
Yeah.
And you're like, no, this is not balanced.
Right.
But I think it.
Especially
So
like when
you're not worth it. If people on here are in friendships like that, I feel like you should reevaluate. Because what I realize is I have a tendency. I said I was a 2 on the Enneagram. That's the helper. The helper is trying to save everybody, even people who don't want to be saved. Like, so, like, as far as, like, helping them just in all these different ways. And so I realize that's not healthy. First off, it can be pulled back. Leeches. Yes, they are. But I also realize too, I mean, I think people do that because they have their own reasons for being unhealthy. So I'm not trying to judge people, even though I don't feel like that's right, you know, but we all have our issues. But I think too, like, what I realize is, like, when we're in those relationships, a lot of times it's a reflection of, like, how we are being a friend to ourselves. Like, we are not being a friend to ourselves.
You totally hit that.
Being a friendship to that other person. And so I think too, like, come back around to love, like, friendship is the foundation of any loving relationship with someone else. But I think in order to have true friendship, you first have to have, like, a loving relationship with yourself.
That's right.
Because why would you allow yourself to, like, be in that type of relationship once you know what, like, sometimes you can't tell. Right? And then you get in it and it was like, oh, crap. Right? But then it's kind of late, kind of too late. But I think when we allow ourselves to stay in that relationship, it says a lot, I think, about the ways in which we're loving ourselves. So I really think you have to be, first off, a friend to you.
Yeah, that's really powerful, because everything that you see, like, in being with the leeches, as Lisa was saying, that is a sure sign that people don't know how to respect themselves and they don't know how to love themselves. Because how you are to yourself is how you will treat everything around you. I know that might sound cliche, but that is so real. So if you have this real ugly person who is just terrible and bad, that's how they are with themselves, and that's just oozing out. And we don't. I mean, it's not a thing that we want to exactly judge and tear down, but it's really challenging. It's one thing for people not to know; it's another for people to know and not doing anything about it. So, and I speak because that person could have been me. Had I not been aware and have done the work with therapy and just digging deep and facing stuff, and I wouldn't be the man that I am, but I'm glad that I am, because I want to be able to love as God created me to love, even the people that don't like me well. I'm still working on that.
The people who don't like you well.
Loving the people who want me to do me harm, that's challenging. But I mean, that's what we're called to do as well. That love is.
But that looks different too. It's not like you're making them your best friend. There is sometimes that feeling of guilt. I don't even know why we get that. Because then if it was someone else, you'd be like, girl, or I don't know if this one.
We misunderstand guilt.
You should walk away.
We misunderstand guilt.
Well, is it shame?
No, guilt is not shame. No, we misunderstand guilt. Guilt is the sign that there's something wrong and you need to change it.
Yes, I always say, okay, so he's kind of like, you're really in tune with emotions. That's a good thing. No, I'm not saying you're emotional, but you're in tune with emotions. Yeah. Me, I personally know I am sometimes not. But what I'm very much a thinker in my head. I think I am very emotional, but I don't always know what I'm feeling.
Yes.
I can think what I'm feeling, but I cannot feel it, if it makes sense. Anyways, I always say that emotions are data. And I really think that for me,
I agree with you.
It's like, because sometimes I think, also, I don't know about you, how you were trained when you were growing up or whatever, but I think for me, it's like I learned to be like, oh, emotions are bad things, like we shouldn't feel too much or whatever. And I don't really feel like that's healthy. Like, I think we should acknowledge when we feel things, because our bodies are trying to tell us that either something's wrong or something's right.
Right.
And so that's why when I say like data, like even in my friendships, when I get that feeling, maybe it's just a warning sign, like I'm not really living in the moment. I'm bringing something from my past into this moment, and I need to address that in order to like relate to this person well, or whatever. But I think it's really important to pay attention to our emotions. People are saying a lot about boundaries.
Boundaries are amazing. Yes, Lisa. Yes, that's a thing lacking in relationships too. Heavy boundaries. Just because you're in a friendship or relationship doesn't mean that you get to just go walking and just running around in their glass houses. You need to have boundaries, and you need to respect those boundaries, and that makes the relationship even better when you do that.
Yeah. And Lisa's mentioning the book Boundaries. I've read it. Have you read it too?
I have read it.
Most people, a lot of people have read it.
I have read it.
And I think it's a helpful tool. Like, I mean, honestly, I don't agree with everything in there, but I think I agree with most of it. Like, I think there's so many truths in there about, even if it just brings awareness to like the ways that you might need to consider, or kind of the areas you might need to look at, putting boundaries, and how those are going to look different for different types of relationships.
Mm-hmm.
I think that really is important. For me, I know sometimes I feel bad, like it's not loving to say like this, I can only do this much. But then I'm realizing, especially now, like in the pandemic, it's like I have this much energy. I have like a limited quantity. Like, we're human, and so I think what I realize is like, if I don't set healthy boundaries, even in my friendships, like I get bitter. I do. I don't know if anyone else does, because like I feel like you're asking of me more than is reasonable for me in this season, and you should know that. Yeah. But how would you know that if I didn't tell you, because I didn't set my boundary? Yeah. And sometimes people will respect that, and sometimes people won't. But the first step is still to set the boundary, to figure out what it is first off. Yeah. Where sometimes that's hard, like what is an appropriate boundary, and then to set it. And I think like practicing that in all of our relationships is meaningful.
Yeah, I isolate. When I get overwhelmed, I isolate, shut down. So, and then it's like I'm a ninja. I disappear. Uh, so
I'm like, you're a ninja. Where you go? If you're isolated, you beat people up. I'm sorry. I get it. I get it now.
no, but yeah. So it is very. And I tell you, it's very challenging if to step in the realm of learning to set boundaries and hold them. Because for me, it was very challenging, and I don't know. It was just real crazy. It was really challenging for me to. It was challenging for me to set boundaries for people, but I needed to do that for protection for myself. But I felt like I didn't want to hurt the person's feelings, and I didn't want to call, you know. But but now I'm in a mode of, I'm sorry, this is a boundary. Protects me, protects you, and if you're going to act crazy, then maybe that's a sign.
Yeah,
you know.
And I mean, I think there's a thing to be said about being flexible. It's not like you just cut people out, like, you know, whatever. But yeah, I think it's good to set boundaries. I know for me, that is what was perceived as like, why aren't you being flexible or adaptable to the relationship? That's what I heard a lot, and I was just like, but when unhealthy people tell you that. You know what I mean? It's like, so I think we have to be brave and we have to be courageous.
Okay.